You are listening to episode 11 of the CMD podcast. Today I'm joined by a special guest, Gordon Oldham, owner of Oldham and Delcamp. It's good to have you on today, man.
Good to be on.
Yeah, you too, man. I'm excited to have you, man, because I know you've done a lot in the attorney world. You've done prosecuting, you've worked for the carriers on that side, and now you do real estate.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your story, man. How'd you start?
Yeah, so born and raised in Florida, fifth generation from Central Florida. And I met my wife, moved to St. Pete. Before I was a lawyer, I was actually in the car business. And I worked for a couple years, and then I went back to school, got an MBA, put myself back through school, and then I went to law school. And nice. Went to law school here in Stetson, St. Pete. Well, actually Gulfport. And after that, I got a job at the state attorney's office. They were hiring. And, it worked out. It's probably the most fun job I've ever had. I prosecuted everything from misdemeanors all the way up to murders and first-degree murders and all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And I was there for a little over 5 years. And then after that, I went and worked for a big law firm, like you said, and represented insurance carriers and big corporations. And I did that for a while. And after that, I kind of wanted to do something where I was representing people again. And I went out with a cell phone and a briefcase and no clients. And I got an office, and I had an office, a phone, a cell phone, a briefcase, and it was a little rough in the beginning, but it all worked out. So
yeah, so full on entrepreneur.
Yep, that's what it is.
How did that happen, man? Tell me about that, because that had to have been scary.
Yeah,
hopping from steady job to cell phone, briefcase, and office that you probably didn't have the money at the time to pay for.
No money. Yeah, it was a crazy story. Working for a big law firm, it's really about billables. It's about numbers, and there's some great folks at that law firm. It just I had the birth of my daughter, my first child, and it was a rough delivery. And she ended up in the hospital. My wife ended up in the hospital, and I was actually sitting there next to her in the NICU, and I had this epiphany. I'm like, look, life is too short, and I got out, and I think it was like 2 weeks after she was born. This probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, certainly not from a business standpoint. And I walked in the managing partner's office, and I said, hey, look, I'll give you 2 weeks, I'll give you a month, I'll give you however, but I'm leaving, I'm going to do my own thing. And they were really cool. They're like, well, is it a money thing? We can get you more money. We can, I said, no, it's just, I need to go do my own thing. And I walked out there, and like I said, I got like a one-room executive suite on 4th Street in St. Petersburg. And a buddy of mine owned the business, and he rented it for me for like a stupid cheap price. And so it was crazy. I went one Monday, and like I said, I had a cell phone and a briefcase, and the phone didn't ring a whole lot. And I just kind of started networking, and people called me, and they call them a door lawyer because you take in everything that walks in the door. And so I did some crime, some criminal defense, and then I was doing some plaintiff's work too, PI, because I had a background in that, being on the insurance defense side. And then that was actually working out pretty well. And I kind of said, well, look, I had a client a good client that I had referred to a title company to close the transaction. And the deal didn't go well. And what happened was I ended up losing the client because I sent the referral over. And so I'm like, look, I got to figure out how to, if I'm going to refer, I got to either find somebody or I got to do it myself. And I thought, well, this might be a really, really good way to diversify my practice, is doing transactional and real estate. And I always liked real estate a lot. So I basically, I went to the class that you got to take to be a title agent, and I became a title agent, and that was over 10 years ago. And then literally, majority of my practice now is all real estate and banking. Represent a lot of big lenders. And then I represent a lot of individuals. And I do closings. I fix problems. My goal is that if you don't hear from me or you don't see me, then I've been a success, because
doing a good job.
Yeah, I'm moving the things in the background and and that's where I'm at now.
Nice. Man, that's crazy that you said 2 weeks after your daughter was born, because I did the same exact thing. It wasn't 2 weeks, it was about 6 months, but I think I had the same exact epiphany where I'm like, dude, I'm tired of this.
The managing partner is like, look, are you sure? Like you just had a baby? Like, I'm like, yeah, man, I'd be doing you a disservice by being here, not wanting to be here. And I'd be doing myself a disservice, because I know that's what I wanted to do.
No, for sure, man, for sure. It's crazy as a dad how having a child just kind of opens your eyes to what's truly important.
Perspective, yeah.
Definitely puts it in perspective, man, because you can always make more money, I feel. You can't get that time back, though.
Nope. No, I heard a quote the other day that I thought was very interesting. The currency of life is not money, it's time. Mm-hmm. And that's so true.
Yeah, it's true, man. I mean, I think money's great. Don't get me wrong, I love having it because it makes life easier, but I see it more of a tool than a necessity. Yeah. As a tool so that I can do things with my family.
Yep.
So, and I feel blessed and I feel fortunate that I was able to, like you said, I mean, started my own thing. I didn't have a briefcase, but I had a cell phone, and it worked out great. We weren't rich. We were making enough money to pay the bills, but I did get to spend a lot of time with my daughter those first 2-3 years of her life, and I think that's what helped the bond.
Well, there wasn't anything in the briefcase, just so you know. It's just the briefcase.
It's all for looks.
Yeah.
All for looks, man.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to land your first client? I mean, it sounds like when you first went out, you weren't really sure what aspect of law you wanted to focus on.
So it's crazy. I keep saying that, but it really is. And this is part of life and part of business. It's a lot of luck. It's like you turn down this street and this happens, and vice versa. So before I got the office, I was going to Starbucks every day because my wife, she was working, but I needed to get out of the house. So I'd go to Starbucks, and I had a laptop. Let me go up there and do whatever it is I was doing. And, actually a coworker at my old law firm referred me a criminal client. It was like a misdemeanor case. Mm-hmm. And that was my first client. And he met me at that Starbucks, and it was something that was someone had gotten drunk and made a mistake. It was nothing bad. But I got him. I got that case resolved. I got the charges dropped. And, being an insider in that system where I was a prosecutor, I can pick up the phone. I knew a lot of the people, had a great relationship, still do to this day. People trusted me. I call up and say, like, this guy's a bad guy. He's a good guy, but can we work this out? And there's a lot of value in that. So we got that resolved, and someone else referred me. I think he referred me someone else. And so
trickle effect.
I'm sitting at the Starbucks, and I have these people paying me. And, criminal clients often pay you in cash. And so I would have these people pay me. I had the Starbucks manager come up to me, and he's like, look, man, can't have people dealing drugs in here. Like, basically. And I'm like, I'm a lawyer, actually. And he's like, no. Like, I've seen you in here. People are paying you in cash. And that was actually the catalyst that made me go get my own office. And obviously it's a public place, and it was a temporary thing, but it was a funny story.
Did what you had to do, though.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
And then, one thing led to another, but it was scary. Like, you wake up every morning, you don't know, you got bills to pay, whether it be malpractice insurance or rent on your office or your cell phone, not even to mention the stuff for your house. And you know this.
Yeah, bills don't stop, man.
And it's a scary thing. Like,
it is. But I think scary but exciting, because this is one thing I always hated about working for somebody else is you've got that salary. So no matter what you do, no matter how much effort you put in, no matter how lazy you are, how much of a hard worker you are, you're making that, for example, $60K a year and that's it. Doesn't matter. As an entrepreneur, you can either make zero or you can make 500K, $1 million a year. The sky's the limit, man. And that's always excited me. That's always kind of motivated me.
Yeah, I think if I had to even think, but you have good days and you have bad days. As a lawyer or an entrepreneur or anything, I've had bad days and I've went home and I've, went to bed and I thought, why did I do this? Then I wake up the next morning and, I get back out there and I do it. And I think that's part of it is that you just kind of keep going. And if I really had to quantify it, I would say that even my worst day at work for myself is probably better than my best day working for somebody else. And
amen, man.
And that's the crazy thing. Like you said, you have a bad day and you just say, look, you wake up and you do it all over again. But the good days, there's nothing like that when you're working for somebody else.
No, absolutely. Absolutely, man. And yeah, I feel exactly the same way. You kind of just summed it up, quantifying it. I couldn't have said that better if I tried, man. And I let me hop back though, because I know you said luck a little bit ago. You said life's kind of funny how it works out with luck, man. I don't really agree with that though, because I don't believe in luck of just luck. I think luck is preparation meets opportunity, and you created that opportunity. And you leverage those relationships with the opposing prosecutors to settle those claims when you first started out, create a good name for yourself. So yeah, luck in a certain aspect, but I think it takes preparation and recognizing those opportunities and capitalizing on them.
100%. And I agree with that. And maybe what I was trying to say is that luck kind of determines as to where you end up. Yeah. It's like ended up in real estate, not doing PI work. Or doing, I could have done anything. I could have ended up not practicing law. There's something. There's an unknown there, and that's probably the scariest part of being an entrepreneur is that you don't know. Like you might take this road and end up over here. But yeah, the preparation. I mean, and I see this a lot, even with young lawyers that go out on their own or other business owners or entrepreneurs I know, there are certain folks that are cut from the same cloth and they're going to rise to the top irrespective because of those other things. I mean, that's an essential element to success.
Yeah, I think you've got to be able to, and I think it comes with putting the reps in too. You get good at recognizing that opportunity of, this might lead to this. And
right.
But I get it too. Once you go through 6-7 doors, you're like, holy shit, I'm doing real estate. I never would have thought I would end up doing real estate.
And change is scary, especially for attorneys. Like we have a very one track. Like when you go to law school, like they say that they like install an operating system. They don't actually teach in law school anything about practicing law. It's the craziest thing in the whole world. Like it's all things in abstract, and you learn, what the law was and the history of the law and case law and all this other stuff. But we're kind of trained to be very boring, very
there's a stereotype.
You do this. And I felt like I was a lot more spontaneous and fun before I was a lawyer. Yeah. Like it really kind of killed the light inside of me in some ways. My wife even tells me that. But so sometimes some of the skills that I'm trained on are actually counter to being an entrepreneur and a businessman. Lawyers are very risk adverse. We're paid to see around corners, right? We're paid to anticipate everything that could go wrong.
Just pure logic.
And that's a problem, because if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you've got to accept a certain amount of risk.
Yeah.
And so when your job is to eliminate all the risk, and then,
now you're assuming risk.
You're assuming risk. You're like, well, I don't know if I want to do this. And so that's something that's kind of crazy.
So you kind of had that internal battle going on. Instead of devil and angel, you had attorney and entrepreneur
all the time
going back and forth.
Yeah. I got the lawyer, you better not do this, this can happen and this can happen, and sometimes it does.
Would you say you're a minority in the sense of attorney percentage-wise being an entrepreneur? Because I feel most kind of play it safe.
Yeah. I think a lot of lawyers don't want to. Maybe they're practice owners, but usually they're one lane and they're kind of one-trick ponies. They know what to do, and a lot of them know how to operate a law practice really well. But there's a small subset that are having other businesses, doing different things, and I think it kind of lends to the way that we're taught and trained. So yeah, I think so. I think it's a really easy. I hear a lot of attorneys talk about, like, I don't want to deal with the administrative. I don't want to deal with the marketing. I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. Not that I like doing administrative stuff.
Hate it.
But the marketing and some of the other stuff, that's really important. I really like that. And I a lot of lawyers don't like to. I know this sounds crazy, but they don't like to interface with clients all that much. They just want to get their job and do it. Like, I'm the opposite. I want to talk to that client. I want to find out what's going on in their life. I want to help them, because down the road when something else happens, they're going to say that guy kind of cared about me. He was genuine, and that.
Yeah, I think most lawyers kind of have the stereotype of being reclusive, being kind of not very talkative. Either that, or I think when most people think of an attorney, they picture the guy at trial objecting. And I mean, from my understanding, though, because before I started jumping into business, I knew nothing about attorneys. That's what I thought. That was my perception of them. But from my understanding, not a lot of attorneys even ever go to trial, no?
No. Most attorneys don't. I mean, I tried a lot of cases when I was at state attorney's office, because that's what you do. That's why you go there. And like I said, it was probably the most fun job of my life. I got to wear the white hat. I got to be the guy that protected the people. And, I got to stand up for victims. And look, it's like anything else in life. There's a lot of times, there's a lot of gray. Even as a prosecutor, it's like, well, how did this happen? Whether it be a battery or even something terrible like domestic violence. A lot of times it's not as straightforward as you'd think. And so when you're in that trial setting, all of that comes out, and you're thinking on your feet, and you got 6 random people in the jury box that you don't know what to think.
You've done real trial work.
Yeah. Okay. When I was at the state, I probably tried 30 or 40 trials to verdict, I think. Okay. I forget now, but I did some civil stuff when I was at the big firm. But, rarely do civil cases go, but criminal cases do go. I mean, all day. I was in court every day. And, I had a big docket, and, I was kind of like, I'm here from 9 to 5, so I might as well get the biggest bang for my buck. And, it was great. It was a lot of fun. And we tried a lot of, you kind of learn, you kind of cut your teeth on DUIs and some of the misdemeanors. And then when you get up to the felonies, I wouldn't say it is as much fun, because a lot of these things are just, they're bad, and there's a lot of bad fact patterns that you don't want to be a part of, and you kind of got to. And
bad individuals.
Yeah, bad on both sides, victims and defendants. It's kind of one of those things where there's culpability on both sides, and then you got to be like a minister of justice, where you say, hey, look, we got to split the baby. The law says X, but this guy's bogus too, and he did a lot of bogus stuff. We need to work this out. Or we send it to the 6 jurors and the judge, and they figure it out.
So settling it pre-trial a lot?
Yeah, I mean, not as much at the state. I mean, we settle. I mean, if you look at the volume of cases, the tens of thousands of cases that flow into the state attorney's office every month, a majority of those are all resolved short of a trial. But I mean, we would have trials, 1 or 2 a month at least that went, and you'd hop on other people's trials.
Sounds exciting, man. I've always found the attorney thing pretty exciting. One of my favorite all-time shows is Better Call Saul. I don't know if you've seen that show, but I love that show.
I have, and the interesting thing is I don't watch a lot of attorney shows, because when I used to love what was it called? SVU,
Special victim
unit before I went to the state. And then my wife and I'm like, I can't. This is what I do every day. and so I haven't watched all that many attorney shows, but I watched Better Call Saul and I listened to some of the stuff that he says, and there's a lot of things that really do happen in the courthouse and criminal, and some of the things he says, like, you know, when he's in the bathroom or he's talking to another lawyer and he says, you might lose. And he's, since when was it ever about winning or losing? And, you know, like I can see a criminal defense attorney saying that, you know?
Yeah. Awesome, man. Yeah, that's a great show, man. I always tell my wife, I always joke with her. I say, if I ever get in trouble, serious trouble, I need a Better Call Saul attorney. Yeah. I need that attorney. You
need the guy that the state trusts.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, yeah.
Nice. So take me a little bit into working for the carriers, man, because you did the prosecution, and then you went and worked for the insurance carriers. How was that? I would imagine miserable.
Well, I was panel counsel, so okay. I was I was in a big law firm that was contracted by all the major carriers, and so I did everything from, you know, regular car accidents to, in those days, we were litigating over PIP claims that had to do with glass.
Yeah.
And I kind of
the windshield's cracking.
The windshield's cracking.
Oh,
yeah. And so my job was, because I was low man on the totem poles, I'd drive my Hyundai around the state of Florida and try to explain to all these county court judges why I was there to litigate over a $50 crack in a windshield. And basically what it was is it had to do with attorney's fees and filing lawsuits for a $50 claim, and the attorney's fees were entitled to it, and if the carrier hadn't paid what they were supposed to pay, you know, it was a very large body of cases for a long time.
Yeah.
And then I would also do bodily injury cases, just car accidents. So that wasn't all that bad because we were paid for by the insurance carrier, but we represented the people that were in the accident. So if you hit somebody and you have, you know, whatever the insurance carrier is, the insurance carrier would pay us and we would represent the client.
I actually hit somebody about 5 years ago and had that same exact thing.
So same thing.
Yeah, I've been.
And that's a weird situation because, you know, your money's coming from the insurance company, but you have a duty to the client. The client's your client, and you're supposed to do everything you can. You know, you've got an attorney-client privilege with the person, not the insurance company. But the insurance company's still paying you. They're your biggest client. Your next client's going to come from them.
You're going to walk a very thin line.
I never really liked that. There's nothing illegal or improper about that. It's a good system. It works. It gets people representation that they need.
Yeah.
But it's kind of an odd, you know, scenario. You know, you're technically not serving two masters, but in a way you might be.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with property, because I know you also have a side business where you do appraisals for vehicles.
Yep.
But we do. I don't know how familiar you are with the property appraisal.
I know for in the context of an auto claim.
It's the same exact thing, man, because you have what's called an appraisal panel. The insurance company hires their appraiser, who's supposed to be an unbiased appraiser.
Right.
The homeowner hires their own appraiser, who's supposed to be an unbiased appraiser. And then you bring in an umpire who sort of plays judge. But if this appraiser is getting 99% of his work from State Farm, there's going to be some bias there.
Right.
If this appraiser is getting 99% of his work from an attorney, like a property attorney that represents homeowners, there's going to be bias there.
Right.
So the umpire, I think it is great, though, because the umpire, a lot of times, if you can find a fair umpire, it does kind of level the playing field, and it does create some sort of evenness, I guess you could say.
I think you see that in all different types of work, law work. You know, one side hires an expert, the other side hires an expert, and you have an adversarial system. And to be honest with you, it works pretty well. And there's not that many other systems that you could have that really could. You know, I mean, do you get the outcome that you want all the time? No. But I do remember when I was doing a lot of civil litigation, the partner that I worked for, he'd always tell me, he's like, listen, you walk away from a mediation and nobody gets what they want, that means it was probably a successful mediation. And so, I mean, I think it has its flaws, just like the jury system has its flaws.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, with the jury system, maybe not the appraisal process, but that thing gets it right more than you would think. I mean, a jury by your peers. Listen, the founders, those people were extremely ahead of their time.
Absolutely.
And sometimes juries would come out of their jury room and ask weird questions, like they would pick up on things that were completely irrelevant. But most of the time, they were pretty good at determining who was lying and who was not telling the truth. And I mean, the triers of fact, I mean, it made me give me a lot of confidence in the system.
Yeah. I think that is probably the fairest way to do it. Unfortunately, it costs a lot of money and a lot of time to do it that way. So I think that's where mediation and appraisal comes in, is try to cut down on those time limits and pricing of things. You think about it, you get a jury, now you're paying an attorney $300, $400, $500 an hour for 6 months on both sides. Costs add up. So
yeah,
it's a sticky situation, man. It always seems though that the pendulum is in favor of one side or the other. I'd love to see it just in the middle. And I think a lot of the frivolous bullcrap is what led to it, where the current situation we're in now, like you were saying, litigating over a $50 windshield claim.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
You would have you would have attorneys. I was a member of a team of 4 or 5 attorneys. This is one law firm. And then you have 4 or 5 plaintiffs' attorneys. And then you have these body of cases. And the carriers are paying attorneys' fees. And these attorneys, don't kid yourself, on both sides, we're getting rich.
Oh, yeah.
And the $50 glass claim, who cares about that? I mean, you care if you're a glass person and you're getting shafted when you should have been paid for that, and right's right, wrong's wrong. But that wasn't what was driving the litigation. It was the attorney fees, and on both sides. I mean, don't kid yourself. The defense loves the plaintiff's bar, and vice versa.
Oh yeah,
one creates the demand for the other one's services.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate that because both sides they benefit from it, and the people who suffer are the consumers, the people of Florida. Your average everyday person going to work, supporting their family, they're the ones that get screwed over in the end. So I'd love to see some sort of system where it can kind of level the playing field for both sides, because I think it's bullcrap if you have a roofer out there signing up claims for illegitimate damage or manufactured damage. That's bullcrap. I think it's bullcrap if a carrier denies and underpays a valid, legitimate claim.
Right.
So I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just...
Well, you and I talk about AI a lot. I'm like a nerd when it comes to AI. Like, I love talking to my ChatGPT and everything else. And you often wonder, like, is there going to be a system in the future where AI plays a role in all of this, almost like an app?
Yeah.
Where maybe you've got an AI that's an appraiser or an umpire, and
because there wouldn't be. How could an AI be biased?
No bias.
So, that's an interesting theory right there. See, I talk to AI all the time, and we'll have I talked to AI about my Rottweiler last night. I'm like, how do I train this dog? But I've had conversations politically, like what would be a great system? How do we fix the system we're in now? Like, and just ideas that it spits out, and a lot of them are just fantastic.
So my house flooded in Helene, and so I've got like PSTD because of the storm, and so I've been talking to AI a lot about how to prevent flooding. And so we've been talking a lot about building a levee system across Tampa Bay. And it's like taking me to like the Dutch and how they've done it. And like, I'm having these crazy conversations. And
it just leads in.
It's pretty nuts.
You almost forget you're talking to a computer system sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. And they just came out with a new update too, 5. I haven't really got a chance to try it out that well, but
I haven't seen much difference in it, but
not yet. I think it was a couple days ago it popped up on my screen. So we'll see. Maybe it can review policies a little better for me. Because reading those things is probably the most boring part of my job.
Yeah, in the practice of law, I don't use AI as much in the actual legal work. It's great for, some of our systems management and organizing things. but it's kind of a third rail with that. I'm very leery about letting it review something. Now I've let it review things and I've checked it. And
you've got to check.
You
have to check.
But it's getting better. It's getting like 60, 80. I mean, I bet you it's almost 70 or 80, 90% there now.
Yeah.
I think lawyers are going to be on the chopping block.
What are you thinking with that? I mean, is it going to be something just a average Joe like myself I need an attorney to do a real estate transaction for me, but now I can do it in an app that's AI, or how do you see that happening?
No, I think it's going to be different. I think you're always going to have a lawyer co-pilot. I think what it's going to do is that the staff, the paralegals, a lot of the costs that go into attorneys is going to go away. And it's unfortunate because, some of the staff functions, that's a lot of a law firm. Like people they call me up and they get legal advice and, well, I don't need to pay you because I was just a phone call, and this, that, and the other. But that's not really how I think about my time. When it comes to my time, it has to do with that malpractice policy. It has to do with the phone. It has to do with the power bill. It has to do with all the people that I employ.
Yeah.
And, those have a fixed cost.
They do.
And so I think in the future, a lot of that fixed cost is going to go away. So my big fear is not necessarily that the staff are going to go away, but I think that there will come a time where there will be a gap in knowledge, because I think one of the other things that will happen is a lot of the associate attorneys and the young lawyers that usually get trained in those settings are going to end up going away.
They're not going to have that environment.
So you're going to have this lawyer on the top, and he's the co-pilot. He's going to probably make more money now than he makes now because his costs are going to go down. But then you're going to have this gap. You're going to have this gap of
the next
knowledge.
generation.
And does it transition just straight to AI, or, how does that work?
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of what's happened with some of the trades, electricians and plumbers. And we had like 20 or 30 years where it was tough. People didn't want to do that. And now all of those people are older. They're extremely lucrative jobs. And nobody's, there's no bench.
It's irony in a nutshell. Because
really
growing
is.
up, going to school, you better go to college, otherwise you're going to be a plumber. You can make a great living being a plumber.
I tell my kids now, I'm like, I'm like, look, you should look at some of this stuff. Like, I think electricians, I think plumbers, I think there'll come a time when they'll make as much or more hourly than an attorney will.
Good, yeah. Yeah, dude, I had an electrician come out to check our box. He was here maybe 30 minutes. Do not recommend this company at all, by the way. I'll leave their name out of it, but $600, dude. He was here maybe 20, 30 minutes. So I think they might be there already, some companies. But
Well, I like to see a robot come to my house and unclog my toilet or something like that.
I think we're years away from that. Years and years. I think the trades are pretty safe. I think it's exactly what you said. A lot of the administration tasks, a lot of I could see automation becoming a big thing. So automated emails going out to clients like that. It's going to save a lot of costs for business owners.
Yeah.
I think we're okay as adjusters in a sense where you've still got to have a person to inspect a property. An AI robot's not going to climb a roof and get photographs. Sure, you can send the drone up there, but it's not the same thing.
Well, and I think that's where the co-pilot comes in, right? Like it's the same thing for practice law, whether it's a big commercial transaction or you got millions of dollars. We wash, I don't know, $20 or $30 million a week through my trust accounts, and it's scary. I think when you're going to trust somebody with that transaction, I don't know if you're going to trust ChatGPT to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be now. Crypto could change all of that, and the attorney, the real estate business and the attorneys, they are not embracing crypto, and I think that's a mistake because I'm a big believer that that's going to be the future in some capacity, and just ignoring it and saying, well, it's no one's going to ever buy real estate with Bitcoin or some of these other altcoins and stuff. I think that's very far from the truth. I think it will be the opposite.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. I think it's the same thing as back in the Industrial Revolution, nobody's going to buy vehicles. Nobody's going to, buy products that were built by a machine, the product line in the factories. That's all we do now. That's
Right.
Our whole economy is based on that.
Well, it's hard to imagine something that hasn't been invented yet.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like trying to explain someone that was riding a horse that they're going to be driving in a car in a couple years.
Yeah.
Or any of those things. It's like trying to explain to someone in 1990 how the internet was going to change everything. And I think when it comes to AI, I think when it comes to robotics, cryptocurrencies, all of those things, I think we're in a really weird time. I don't know if in the last 100 years, maybe since the Industrial Revolution, but I think it's even bigger than that. Yeah. I think we're at the intersection of so many innovative technologies, and I think it's super cool, super scary. But yeah, I mean,
I can see why people are hesitant and scared, but I don't know, maybe the entrepreneur in me, I just see opportunity. Yeah, I see that it's going to open so many different doors that haven't been created yet. Like you said, trying to explain to someone riding a horse, they're going to be driving a car in 5 years.
And that's kind of how it happened. It happened quick.
Yeah.
And so I mean, we see what's happened with robotaxi and Waymo, and you think of the implications on car accident work and some of these things. I had a criminal defense attorney, a very clever one. I was having lunch with him the other day, and I was talking to him about self-driving cars. And he's like, it's going to decimate my business. And I've heard this from PI lawyers all the time, so no accidents, there's going to be no, but I never heard it from a criminal defense attorney. And I said, well, why do you think that's going to eliminate your business? He says, well, think of all of the crimes that originate with a traffic stop, DUIs, possessions, a whole host of those things. But if the robot is driving, the robots don't make mistakes, which means the police officers can't pull you over. And so, the whole adage when I was a prosecutor was, a cop would follow you, and then you would make a mistake, and he could make a legal stop, and away you go from there. But a police officer can't just pull you over for no reason. Yeah. And if he does that, then all of the things that he finds based on that stop get thrown out.
Yeah.
So it was pretty interesting.
No, definitely is. For sure, man. I think as a business owner, because he's got the fear that it's going to destroy his full business, you've got to be in that mindset today of how are you going to adapt. And I think you've got to adopt a lot of these tools and learn how to use them. Otherwise, you're going to die out. There's going to be a lot of failing businesses, I think, in the next 5 years. But I think there's also going to be a lot of businesses that 10x in the next 10 years.
It's constantly growing, and this is what separates an entrepreneur from someone that works for somebody else, is that instead of thinking about that next paycheck and what it's going to cost, like it's a trade-off, and it's scary. It's like, well, if I change my business, then revenue is going to go down, and I'm spending all this money on different AI. We pay for all these AI subscriptions, and I kind of forced my staff to use these things and play with them. And I just tell them, I said, I don't necessarily know, because they've come to me like, do you think is my job safe? And I said, for now, your job's definitely safe, but I think the people that part of those folks that would lose their jobs, of those people, the ones that are going to keep their jobs for the longest are going to be the ones that adopt AI and know how to use it.
Yeah.
And there's a subsection, but just throwing your hands in the air and saying I'm out,
I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
I think it's
an error.
Yeah. Getting stuck in your ways, refusing to grow. So what do you, because I know you said you think it's going to take the co-pilot still. What do you see for your business in the next 5 years? I
think it's going to be very challenging for small practices. I think big law firms are also going to have I think the biggest change will probably happen with them. I think you're going to have a lot of staff that go out. You're going to have a lot of clients, big institutional clients, that are going to say, maybe we could have some AI do some of this drafting and transactional work. And my practice is a lot of transactional work. I think I think you will see compressions in margins, and that compression in margin will force you to reduce overhead in a lot of different ways. The folks that don't do that are gonna fail, and but I think on the other side of it, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. We might lose some of these things with AI, but we're also it's going to open the door for so much other stuff. And I don't even know what that is yet. But
yeah, I don't think anybody does.
But there's going to be opportunity. And so I don't think it is like a glass is half full or empty. I think it's more a half full kind of thing. It's just, do I know what's going to happen? No, but I know that there's going to probably be ways to make a lot of money on the other side of it.
For sure. I think it's going to be a rocky few years where everyone's still trying to figure out, hey, where's this thing going? What is it doing? How can we make money on it? How can we leverage it to our advantage? But I think on the other side, I agree with you. Half glass full, and there's going to be opportunity.
And if you look at it like an early adopter, I think you're going to have, some of the folks that adopt this stuff right off the bat, their margins are going to go up. There's going to be some people that are going to get super efficient, and they're going to make a lot of money. And then, like anything else, the market will bring it back into equilibrium, and margins will come down. And so I think there's some money to be made on the front side of it too. Yeah.
So I was actually thinking too, because I know we had discussions on like how the PA business is going, and I'll be honest, we're not signing as many claims as previously. We've kind of transitioned to doing scopes and estimates, appraisals. I still sign claims, but I'm very picky with the ones I do. They're larger losses. But right now, currently, I'm working on fully automating my business as much as possible. So using Zapier, MailChimp, and just automating answering phone calls. So for example, basically, I guess to fully replace all admin tasks. And then I think if you're a business that can learn how to, if you've got a business, learn how to automate your own business. And even worst case scenario, you can get into some sort of consulting of helping other businesses automate for a fee.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, that's one opportunity I've seen out of this.
Well, we talked about this a little bit before the podcast, but it was talking about, personal service providers. Mm-hmm. And I think that the only way that you make money is you got to leverage.
Yeah.
And prior to AI, we did it with people. And now we have AI, and that's the ultimate leverage tool.
Yeah.
And so where that goes, who knows? I mean, that's the crazy thing. And like you said, like you might transition to another business where you're making other businesses more efficient. But, I think net, it's going to be a good thing.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Because one thing I noticed is, I don't know if you're the same way, but as an entrepreneur myself, my ultimate goal isn't to be a PA. Like I love my business. I love what I do. But my ultimate goal is to scale, and I want to have 2, 3, 4 different businesses. Is it possible? Maybe. We'll see. I'm gonna go for it.
Right.
But I think all these opportunities are going to lead to entrepreneurs being able to do that. And actually, what do I mean? You are that way. You've got the side business doing appraisals, and that does pretty well for you, from what I understand.
Yeah. It's difficult. Like I said, being a lawyer, and it doesn't lend to being an entrepreneur. And when you're an attorney, you have an obligation to your clients, and you have your relationship with your clients is big. You have to do what's best for them, irrespective of what's best for you. But and sometimes that's not what always makes you the most money, and that is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think when you're talking about these AI tools and being able to have multiple businesses, you probably would have not been able to do that for these things.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about, like you and I were talking about firing ourselves and our businesses, and automating them and making them into more of an asset rather than an ongoing interest. And I think AI is the ultimate tool for that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the right now smaller entrepreneurs, let's say a small mom and pop plumbing company, they can use that to leverage to free up time, automate a lot of those admin tasks, hire someone to go out in the field to do the actual work. But But I think it can create a lot of opportunity in that way. You're still making the same money, but maybe you have 20 extra hours a week to spend with your family or to do a hobby you love and enjoy.
Right.
So what do you think the ultimate thing in, because I see a lot of these naysayers with AI. I see a lot of people who are just absolutely terrified of it, and they say it's going to cause 50% of the population and economy to lose their jobs.
I don't think that's true. You look back at history, and this isn't the first innovation that we've had.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about some of the farming techniques, the plow, it allowed us to infinitely replicate how much food we could make. You talk about like going from a horse to a car. I think that you get into a situation where it gives people a lot more free time to do things like be creative and think of things. I mean, this is part of the human evolution. We've done this from the time that we were in caves to now. Like we get a technology, it leverages our time. 100 or 200 years ago, they say 200 years ago, a family worked a farm and they spent all of their time managing their farm. They didn't have a lot of free time. I mean,
none.
And you fast forwarded to now, and the life that I live and you live, we have infinitely more time than those folks did to do things that that they will never have a chance to do.
And you think it's going to compound to even more time?
I think it's going to compound. I think it's a positive thing. I think you obviously got to worry about AI and destroying us, and we've all watched The Terminator.
Yeah, great movie.
But you can't worry about that. I mean, if you worried about that when any of these other inventions, it would have stopped progress.
Yeah. I agree. I'm excited about it personally. Like you said, half glass full.
Yeah.
I think it's going to lead to creativity. I think it's going to lead to more time.
I mean, think about it. Like, we have these very exceptional people that come along, and they're either super smart, they're composers, they're engineers, Einstein, things like that. Like, if you had more time on your hands to develop something, what if you're the guy or gal that has this special talent that didn't have the ability to focus on this thing, and now with AI, you have more time to do that. Like, that's how you get a couple more Mozarts and a couple more Einsteins and a couple more
Martin Scorsese's.
Right, yeah. All of the above.
Yeah. A couple good movies. Maybe Hollywood can step their game up a little bit.
Yeah.
Stop recycling stuff.
Yeah, we've been.
No, I'm excited, man. I'm absolutely excited for it. I mean, even if it does hinder the business in a sense, I think I'll adapt. I think I'll figure something out. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there will do the same exact thing, man. So let me kind of shift here a little bit, though, and let me ask you, what advice do you have for new upcoming attorneys that are maybe getting out of law school? What would you say? Start your own practice? Would you say play it safe? Go work for a firm? Maybe there's another attorney out there who's got the same thing you do. They're part attorney, part entrepreneur.
Right.
Having that same internal battle.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it was someone like me, I think working for somebody else, when I worked at the state attorney's office and I got to try cases, and I worked at a big law firm and I got to be part of that structure, those things allow me to do what I do now. Like, I don't know if I would have 100% been able to walk out of law school and hang a shingle and be as effective as I am now. So I think that's important for a young lawyer to get that experience in some way. I'm not saying that you have to go work for the state attorney for 5 years and then go work for a big law firm for X amount of years. But and this kind of lends back to my concern, about AI is that learning curve where I kind of learned to be a lawyer and run a law firm and do all of this stuff, it kind of comes from that area. So I think you either got to get a good mentor, or you go work for somebody else. With the trial work, if that's what you want to do, then there are some very specific things you do. If you want to be a business owner, you want to own your practice, getting in with a smaller attorney that's looking to turn over the reins and and be, part of, take over that. I mean, those opportunities are very few and far between, but that's the way that you do it. If you're a young lawyer and you say, hey, I'm going to step into something, I think there's a lot of older lawyers out there that are ready to do that.
Yeah, kind of.
Law firms don't trade on the secondary market like other businesses do. It's not like a plumbing company or an electrician where like a private equity group cobbles them all together. Law firms can only be owned by lawyers. I think the laws will eventually change for that. So I think there's a lot of upside if you can get in and, maybe you buy a law firm and, you work for somebody and you learn that. I mean, it's all about mentorship.
Yeah.
100%.
So you learn as much as you can, leverage it, start your business if that's what you want to do, but not without the knowledge, not without leverage.
No, and don't be scared. Don't be scared. I mean, that's the problem is it's better to do it when you're younger than you're older.
Yeah.
I see some of these contemporaries of mine that are doing it at 45 when they could have done it at 30 or 35, and they got a family and they've got all these obligations. It becomes infinitely harder at that point.
It does when you've got people at home counting on you. But I think it can work to your advantage too, because I don't think anything is going to drive you like that. If you know it's do or die, there's no dying. You've got to do.
Yep.
So I that worked for me anyway. I put the pressure on and I said, time to make it happen.
And some people work great under pressure.
So I do. I've learned that about myself over time. If I don't have a pile of shit on my plate, I genuinely get a little depressed. Like if I'm not ripping my hair out, which I don't have much of these days, but I've got to have 50 things to focus on, man. That's when I feel like I'm at my best.
So I'm a list guy.
Are you a list guy?
I've been told that this is a lawyer thing, but I don't know. And so like every morning I make a list. Mm-hmm. And this thing, like I was reading an article that like people that are list people like me, that when you cross something off on a list, it releases endorphins in your brain. And it actually is, and I believe it. Like,
yeah.
I get that list, I crank it out, and my goal is to get that thing done by the end of the day. And there's nothing, it's one of the most gratifying things.
Nice.
And it's just a good organizational tool.
Yeah. I tell all my guys that is, because that's one of the hardest things with training people, man, as I said, because I do the same thing. Maybe not where I get endorphins on it, but I have a to-do list on my app on my phone, my Apple Notes, and every night I go through, I add to it. As I'm doing stuff throughout the day, I take it off. I tell all my guys, you need to have a freaking list, man. As I'm telling you something, don't just say I got it and then it doesn't get done. I want you to write it down 100%. So that I know it gets done.
When we have a meeting every morning with all my staff in my office, and I make them all bring notepads in, and I don't see them writing it down. I'm like, you need to write that down. Because when you write it down, not only do you remember it, but you also, it becomes something that it gets carried over. So even if you don't finish it today, you can finish it tomorrow. But, you can't remember everything that somebody says.
Absolutely not. And I think it works to that person's advantage that's writing it down too, because as someone who employs people, if I have two employees in front of me and I'm talking and I see one writing it down and one not,
right?
That person writing it down is getting I respect them a little more for taking the time to write that down and actually retain that information. Well,
and you have these conversations where they come back into your office and they address it 2 and 3 times. And as a boss, that's very off-putting, because it's like, we don't have much time in the day. Our time is money. It's valuable.
Yes.
And by you not writing that down, it's a cost.
Yeah. I hate repeating myself. If you're new and I've got to show you something 2-3 times, fine. But don't come at me 6-7 times how to do the same thing I've shown you how to do 2-3 times already.
Right.
No. Hate that. That's a bad quality in an employee.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think we're about at it. No, we got a little bit more time. How much time do you have?
I got plenty of time.
Okay. Well, hell, let's talk on something. What's your craziest case you worked as a prosecutor, man? Like, if you had to say the most heinous crime, is that too much to ask?
Heinous crime. I had some cases where it was murders and they were terrible and
bad people.
They were just not really, just people that had really bad substance abuse problems, people that were mentally ill. I would say that the sex crimes are horrible. Like if I had to do that on a daily basis, I would
probably
do something else.
Yeah.
And it's difficult too, because when you look at that transition time that I told you, when I was, I didn't have any money and I had an office, and, I had someone approach me, and I think they had committed a really bad crime, sex crime. And those folks aren't people that you would think, like, they're normal people. They're doctors and lawyers and school teachers, people with means.
Yeah.
And so, I remember that person had a 401k with 6 figures in it, said, I can write a check for whatever you want. I didn't have any money. And I had done these on the other side as a prosecutor. And one of the most difficult decisions that I made was I had to turn that money down. And I remember having this conversation with my wife, and I'm like, honey, I think everybody's entitled to a defense, and whether or not this person was guilty is irrelevant to what we're talking about right now. But I just felt like if you went down that road and you began doing those things, it wasn't me. There's people that want to do that, and I didn't want to do it.
No, that takes balls, especially if your back's against the wall and you have no money.
Right.
Yeah. So you're saying when you started working, they wanted you to represent them and defend them.
When I started my law firm with no clients and the cell phone and the briefcase with nothing in it, I had a client approach me, and it was a referral from somebody, and I think they did exactly what they were accused of.
Yeah, and you just didn't feel right defending that.
I had to tell them, like, look, and I was thinking, like, it was a big check. It was like 50 or 100 grand. I mean, they're expensive cases, and
not a lot of people would be able to walk away from that.
And I had to walk away from it, and it was the best thing that I ever did.
It's powerful, man. That's fucking powerful.
It was like, okay, like, and it didn't feel as good at the time as it does now.
But looking back, you can look at yourself in the mirror, sleep good at night.
And you also, there's another side of that, not to give a lawyer answer to it, but when I was at the state attorney's office, there were cases that there was very well people that were innocent that were accused of these things. And because of just the weight of that charge, the minute you walk into a courtroom and you're accused of lewd lascivious on a 12-year-old or something like that, the accusation in and of itself,
you're done.
You're done. Yeah. And so I think that, but at the same time, when I was at the state attorney's office, I prosecuted child abuse. I prosecuted child sex crimes, and the things that I saw were horrible. And if I had that little thing from like Men in Black, there's a lot of things that I would erase from that experience.
No, absolutely. I think those are the worst type of people. I might be an extremist on my views of what should happen to those people, but yeah.
I mean, I think everyone's entitled to a defense, and I think that there's a lot of those folks that are innocent. I know that's not what anyone wants to hear, because they want.
Well, I mean, it's probably the truth. There probably are innocent people that are accused,
but there's some bad people.
A lot of bad people.
A lot of bad people. Anyone that hurts a kid like that.
Yeah. You deserve the worst if you do that.
Yeah.
As a dad, man, that's like my worst fear.
Well, that's being a dad now and seeing that, it's like this is a problem. Now, I will tell you, when I was at the state, I did these child abuse cases, and I didn't have any kids at that point in time. Yeah. And these kids would come in with like bruises and things like that, and we had this special room, and there was a detective, and they had all these toys. It was kind of creepy. We would ask them how they got these bruises and stuff like that. And I would always like pull the sword out and march in like, oh, we're going to, and now that I've got kids and I see the bruises and how they hurt themselves all the time. And I think to myself, like, I think the people that are prosecuting those cases need to have kids, and I always
think it should be a prerequisite.
Yeah, 100%. And I think also too, one of the things with our system when it comes to prosecutors, and going back to that whole minister of justice thing, I think every prosecutor that asks for a a prison sentence should go to the prisons in the state of Florida and see them.
I've heard we have some pretty bad. I've never been to one here.
Yeah, the jails and the prisons are bad. And look, they're for bad people, but at the same time, they're also for people that pay their debt to society and get out. And you have to balance those two.
Well, our whole prison system in itself is industrialized profit machine, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think there's really any rehabilitation in our current state of affairs right now.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You get indoctrinated into that mindset, and you come out worse than you went in. I think. I mean, I'd be curious to know the statistics on repeat offenders, regardless of crime, that serve. I don't know. Let's say at least what is it? A year you've got to do to get prison.
Prison's a year or more.
Yeah, so a year that end up going back to prison versus actually never going back again. I'd be curious to see those numbers.
Yeah, I think if you read the criminal code in the state of Florida, the ultimate goal is not rehabilitation; it's punishment.
Yeah,
and I think that's something for a lot of folks that go to prison that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I mean, I think not every crime is the same. If you got a DUI, reckless or something, and I don't know what the punishments are. You'd be more familiar with that for me. But let's say something where you didn't harm people, it was a mistake. I think you should get rehabilitated. But for example, if you hurt a child, punishment.
I used to have this boss at the state attorney's office, and he was a hard-charging prosecutor.
Yeah.
And the judge that I was in front of, smart judge, one of the smartest judges on the bench, he was he would weigh these things.
Yeah.
My job was to advocate for punishment. So my boss would send me in there, and he'd send me with the criminal code. Mm-hmm. And he would make me read to the judge, like every other code, there's a purpose section. It says the purpose is punishment. That's the first line. Something along those lines. And so this old judge would get so upset with me because I would have to go in there and read this to him. And he's like, did Mr. So-and-so put you up this? I'm like, yes, Judge. Yes, sir, Judge. And so he's like, well, go ahead and do it. And so that's what we would do at all of our sentencing. So, nice. Yeah.
So I've always been kind of curious with the prosecutors, though, the state prosecutors. So because obviously you guys know not everybody's guilty. So, but that's your job. Everybody's guilty.
Yeah, not really. I think.
Or if an attorney on the opposing side came to you with clear proof of, hey, this needs to get thrown out, you guys will listen and hear it?
You got to do what's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And you got an obligation to do that. And
okay.
I think you believe your victims. Mm-hmm. You look at the facts. And you're a minister of justice, and you make a decision based on all those things. And that's where the good ones are from the bad ones. A lot of folks go to the state attorney's office, the younger prosecutors. They don't understand that. And you're not there necessarily to advocate for this individual victim. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if they are a victim, then you're an advocate for them. But you're not this isn't your client. The victim is not your client. The people of the state of Florida are your client. Yeah. And because of that, you got to do what's right. And so if you see something that deems the defendant not guilty or innocent, mm-hmm. and you got to do the right thing. You got to throw the case out. And that's not always the popular thing if you put in time and you've done that. But that's
looking
the right
to make a name for yourself.
Yeah. And young prosecutors, it takes some time to get that, right? Yeah. So
nice, but it's good to know that does happen because I'm not familiar with any of that at all. So
that happens every day.
It's cool to see a little bit of an insight into that.
Yeah. So and I had a lot of good bosses at the state attorney's office, and they were always telling me, you need to do what's right, and that's something that was good.
I think that's an important trait to have, just as a human being. Do what's right. I think if more people just did that on both sides of things, it
Well, even in my business, your business, everyone's business, if you do the right thing by people, and even if that right thing doesn't lead to you making more money or being successful in that moment, mm-hmm. I'm a big believer it all comes back.
Oh, yeah.
And there's been times when I've talked to people on legal issues and they wanted to go one direction. I mean, I spend most of my time when people call me, a lot of times talking them out of using me because I'm like, look, the cost that you're going to spend for me to do this is going to outweigh the benefit. And what's going to happen is when I get that result, you're going to be upset about that. I've done this before. And so when you're honest with people and you tell them the truth, it's crazy because they come back and they're like, listen, this guy's a straight shooter. He told me the truth.
Yep.
And usually when they come back, whatever it is they wanted me to do is a much more lucrative thing, or I get them as clients for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's really cool.
I think a lot of people miss that. They're just thinking of today, not future referrals a year. Because I've done the same thing. I probably walk away from maybe 30% of claims where if we go out to a home, for example, there's some roof damage, but it's a 1-year-old roof. Client wants to file a claim. I'm like, do not file a claim. Right. It's a 1-year-old roof. It's repairable. Shingles are still in production. Or it might even be 10 years old, but it's still repairable. Do not file a claim because your carrier's going to send you a non-renewal letter. They're going to deny your claim. And now if you don't pay out of pocket for your roof, they're going to drop you. You're not going to be able to find coverage anywhere. If you truly can't afford that, now your mortgage company is going to put a forced place policy on you. And the only way we're going to get this spot is by going to litigation. And I know that from day one. Look, get it repaired. Get the next 5-6 years out of it. Know that it's coming up. Start saving your money. And it has led to future claims. Hey, my friend Sally said you were great a year ago. I want you to work my claim. And a lot of times you are correct. It is a lot more lucrative.
Right. So I get it a lot in earnest money deposit disputes.
Okay.
So 2 people buy a piece of property, they put $5,000 down or something like that, and there's something bad happens, and essentially the contract doesn't close. And then you have the option of either releasing the escrow to the other side, coming to an agreement, or going to mediation and ultimately litigating it. And a lot of these earnest money deposits on a residential house are $5,000-$10,000. And then what happens is that by the time you pay me to go to mediation to tell you you're $5,000 or $10,000 in, and maybe you get it, but net to you would have been better to just split the baby, which was the original offer at $2,500. And the only person that made any money was me. And I think that's a tough conversation to have for a lot of business owners, especially in the beginning when you don't have a lot of money. You're waiting for that next that next fee. With lawyers, it's different because, like I said, if I don't do this, then it's a problem. But that's not saying that ultimately happens. Like there's a lot of attorneys, not bad mouthing lawyers, but they make their business by letting the client make the decision. And there's nothing wrong about that. But they don't have to advocate for you to not do it. Mm-hmm. All they have to do is tell you what your options are.
And then let you make the decision.
Right.
No, for sure. I think that just speaks volumes of your character, though, Gordon. I think that definitely speaks volumes to the man you are, man. So
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Family man, wife. How long have you and your wife been together? Since before law school?
Oh, yeah. I think that I met her in 2002. And then we've been married for like 17 or 18 years. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, man. So she's been by your side the whole time?
Yep.
I think that's important, too. So when you went out into starting your own practice, she was supportive of it?
She was supportive. She worked, and ultimately it was why I could do what I did. And she's fantastic. I mean, she is, she's my partner. Everything I do, I consult her. Like I tell her, obviously don't tell her about client information, but when it comes to business and things like that, like she's the first person that I talk to.
Best friend.
Yeah, best friend. She's a fantastic mother. She's a fantastic wife. I mean, I often tell people that, I hit the lotto. Like I went on a fishing trip with my buddies this last weekend, and we were talking about our lives. It's this fishing trip that we've gone on for like 22 years. And it's interesting because we were just kind of reflecting, and I'm just like, look, I'm a glass half full kind of guy, but like I was born in the greatest country in the history of humanity. I had the benefit of having great parents. I met an exceptional woman. I married her. I got great kids. Like, listen, there's been tough times, but like this is
overall, you're grateful.
I lucked out.
Nice.
But yeah, she's a fantastic woman. She is my best friend.
Yeah, I think that's important for men just in general. If you have that good woman by your side, you hold on to her, man.
Yeah.
So my wife's great as well. Good mother, was supportive. Luckily, when I told her, "Hey, I'm quitting. I want to start my business," she could have said, "No, you're not. You're gonna go to work. We got bills to pay. We got a new baby."
Right.
So thank God for her as well.
Yeah.
I do that too, though, man. Where I'll reflect just how lucky I am. I've got it all. I've got everything, man. So maybe there is some luck,
There's luck for anything, but like you said, there's other things that intersect that. But the happiness, that's also that there's preparation when it comes to that too.
Well, I know people that have it all who are miserable.
Right.
So
I feel like when you talk about entrepreneurship and money, they're two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said, it's a tool. And, I know plenty of wealthy people that are very unhappy.
Yeah.
And I was telling someone the other day, it's like, I feel like wealth is kind of like salt. Money's like salt.
Yeah. How so?
If you put too little or none, the food doesn't taste that good.
Yeah.
You put too much. And I feel like there's a happy medium there because, I know plenty of folks that settle the big case, make all the money, sell the business, make all the money, and they lose that purpose. And it's like, you got it all, man. What's going on? It's just like, well, I don't have the drive anymore.
Yeah, I could. I mean, I haven't made that much money to lose drive yet, so maybe I'll find out one day.
Yeah. It's a good thing to find out.
Yeah. So, well, I think we are about an hour and 15 in, Gordon. I just anything else you want to share, or
No, man.
any questions for us, or?
No.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, brother. We'll definitely have some more chats.
Sounds good.